This is a true crime in real time update from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
It's a move that raises eyebrows, even in a case already overflowing with shock and horror. Lori Vallow Daybell, the so-called Doomsday Mom, has left a trail of legal wreckage from Idaho to Arizona. And now she might be gearing up to represent herself in her upcoming Arizona trial. That's right. No legal counsel, just Lori, her warped worldview, and the cold, hard scrutiny of the courtroom spotlight. It's a decision that could redefine her already infamous legacy. But before we unpack what self-representation might look like, let's start with what's on the table. In Arizona, Lori faces charges of conspiracy to commit murder. This time, the victim wasn't her children, whom she's already been convicted of murdering in Idaho, but her former husband's nephew, Brandon Boudreaux. Brandon barely escaped an attempt on his life, allegedly orchestrated by Lori and her brother, Alex Cox. With Lori's Idaho convictions fresh in the public's mind, the Arizona case feels like the sequel no one asked for, but everyone is watching. Now here's the kicker. If she represents herself, Lori will control every aspect of her defense. No seasoned attorney stepping in to filter her words or soften her rhetoric. Just Lori, unfiltered and unhinged, standing before a jury with a Bible in one hand and a legal brief in the other. But why? What could drive someone to make such a perilous legal gamble? Perhaps it's the same force that led her down this dark path in the first place, a need for control. Lori has always been the architect of her narrative, manipulating those around her with promises of salvation, visions of the apocalypse, and a twisted sense of divine purpose. Representing herself could be the ultimate expression of that control. Or maybe she simply doesn't trust anyone else to tell her story the way she sees it. But let's not forget the practical risks. The courtroom isn't a pulpit, and judges don't look kindly on theatrics. Representing oneself is notoriously difficult, even for those with a legal background. Lori? She's walking into a lion's den armed with little more than her bravado. The prosecution will tear through her arguments like tissue paper, and the jury, already primed by her prior convictions, might find her performance more incriminating than any piece of evidence. Then there's the issue of courtroom dynamics. Lori's behavior during her Idaho trial was anything but conventional. Who could forget her cold indifference, her smirks at inappropriate moments, or her eerie silence when faced with gut-wrenching testimony? These weren't the actions of someone pleading for her life. They were the actions of someone who believed she was untouchable. If Lori brings that same energy to her Arizona trial, the results could be catastrophic. Imagine Lori cross-examining Brandon Boudreaux, the man who barely survived her alleged conspiracy. How would she handle the raw emotion, the damning details, the undeniable fear etched in his voice? And what about the jury? They'll be watching her every move, every word, every twitch of her facial expression. Will she charm them, confuse them, or alienate them completely? The psychological implications are just as intriguing. Experts suggest that individuals with narcissistic tendencies often see self-representation as an opportunity to showcase their perceived superiority. Lori, whose actions have long hinted at a deeply ingrained sense of self-importance, might view this trial as her stage, a final desperate bid to control the narrative even as it spirals further from her grasp. But what if it's more than that? What if deep down, Lori knows this trial isn't about her innocence or guilt? Maybe she sees the writing on the wall and recognizes that her legal fate is all but sealed. In that case, representing herself could be less about winning and more about making a statement. A declaration that, in her mind, she's still the protagonist of her story. Yet, the legal system isn't built to indulge delusions. Judges are known for their patience, but that patience has limits. If Lori disrupts the trial, fails to follow legal procedures, or uses her platform to preach her apocalyptic beliefs, she could find herself facing even harsher penalties. And the jury, they won't be impressed by grandstanding or self-righteous monologues. They'll be looking for evidence, for truth, for justice. As the Arizona trial looms, one question hangs in the air. What kind of defense will Lori mount when the stakes are this high? Will she double down on the tactics that led to her downfall in Idaho, or will she surprise everyone with a calculated, coherent strategy? One thing is certain, whatever happens, it will be a spectacle unlike any other. And that leaves us with this. Is Lori Vallow Daybell walking into the Arizona courtroom as a defendant seeking justice, or as a prophet determined to rewrite her story, no matter the cost? Only time will tell. There's a certain audacity to the idea of Lori Vallow Daybell representing herself. It's the kind of move that sends ripples through the legal world and raises an eyebrow or two among seasoned court observers. And why wouldn't it? We're talking about a woman whose entire narrative has been about control, from her apocalyptic visions to her chilling ability to manipulate those closest to her. But here's the thing. Control in a courtroom isn't the same as control over a cult-like following. Let's talk about what makes this case unique. Lori's upcoming trial in Arizona isn't just a continuation of her criminal saga. It's a whole new stage with its own set of players and stakes. Arizona courts are known for their no-nonsense approach, and prosecutors are likely sharpening their knives for what they expect to be a brutal legal battle. If Lori walks in without an attorney, she's not just fighting the charges, she's fighting the system itself. What fascinates me, though, is how this decision could backfire spectacularly. Let's not mince words here. Self-representation is a legal minefield. Lori would have to navigate complex legal procedures, cross-examine witnesses who may hold deep resentment toward her, and argue against seasoned prosecutors who've been building their case for years. And let's face it, her track record in court doesn't exactly scream legal mastermind. But beyond the legal missteps, what about the human element? Can Lori look her would-be victim, Brandon Boudreaux, in the eye and maintain the narrative she's constructed for herself? Will she crumble under the weight of testimony that paints her as the orchestrator of yet another life-threatening plot? Or will she double down, using every ounce of her charisma to twist the story in her favor? There's also the question of whether this is even a rational move. Is Lori aware of the risks she's taking, or is she so deeply entrenched in her delusions that she believes she can outsmart the system? It's a gamble, no doubt about it, and one that could redefine how we view her, not just as a criminal, but as a person. But here's what really sticks with me. The psychological toll this trial could take, not just on Lori, but on everyone involved. Her decision to represent herself is a high-stakes game of chess, but it's one where she seems to be playing without a strategy. And in the end, it might just be her undoing. That's all for now. We'll keep digging and getting you the facts. Thanks for listening. I'm Tony Brueski. Be sure to press subscribe so you don't miss any of our updates.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
Where hidden killers roam, unnoticed, in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Brueski as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski.